I hope you find him, Avery says. But if you don't, you're still someone. You're still a whole person, even without a father. No one has ever said that. Not Katie, not Brad, not Aunt Jean. The words settle like stones into still water. A seagull dive bombs his board. Cameron flails, loses his balance, plunges into the cold sound. When he surfaces, gasping, Avery is laughing. He reaches for her board and pulls her in with him. They bob together, her arms around his neck. Don't say it, she warns. Say what? Anything about wet clothes. Or being glad we brought the camper. She kisses him, salty, shivering. When she pulls back, her eyes are bright. Last one back to shore is a rotten egg. She jets away, and Cameron follows. And for the first time in weeks, he's not thinking about his father or the ring in his pocket. He is thinking about the girl who saved a stranger on the pier. The octopus intervenes. I waited until the building was empty. The grocery owner, who smells of coffee, had been speaking with the young drifter in his kitchen. But I was interested in something else. A driver's license on Terry's desk. I had seen it through the office window, and I knew because I have spent 1,352 days learning to read that it would contain the name I needed. Cameron Cassmore. Born February. I squeezed through the gap near the pump, my body compressing in ways it no longer compresses easily. The journey across the lobby floor was agonizing. My skin dried, my gills labored. But I made it to the office, took the license in my arm, and dragged it across the floor to tuck it under the sea lion statue in the lobby. She polishes its whiskers every night. She will find it. The journey back nearly killed me. I lay in my den afterward, my 3 hearts laboring. I am so tired, but the clue is placed, and I have seen something else. The grocery owner, at his kitchen table, staring at a laptop screen showing a family tree, tracing the name Cassmore, connecting dots I have already connected. Perhaps I am not the only one trying to finish this story. Ethan cannot sleep. He sits at his kitchen table with whiskey and a laptop. He remembered Daphne Cassmore yesterday. She worked his deli counter for a summer, a teenager, quiet and watchful. She quit suddenly and left behind a bad check for $6. Ethan never cashed it, kept it in a drawer under the register for reasons he couldn't explain. Now he opens an ancestry website. Daphne Cassmore, a birth record, a missing person listing, last known address, Modesto, California, and beneath her name, Cameron Cassmore, born February 2, 30 years ago. Ethan sits back. Cameron is Daphne's son, and Daphne was Erik's girlfriend. And Tova, he reaches for his phone. He needs to tell her. But it is late, and some news is better delivered in person. He resolves that tomorrow, at dinner, he will tell Tova everything he knows. The repair. The dinner does not go as planned. Tova arrives with wine and a firm declaration. This is not a date. Ethan, who spent the afternoon shaving and selecting a shirt that did not smell like deli meat, says, "Of course not. Just supper between friends." Cameron is there. He lives in Ethan's driveway, and the 3 of them sit at the kitchen table. Tova is animated in a way the shopkeeper has rarely seen. She tells him about the rare Grateful Dead shirt from $1,995 she bought online for $2,000. "The last Seattle show," she says, and Ethan nearly chokes on his wine. Then Tova, ever the cleaner, notices the state of his kitchen. "I'll just tidy up." "Tova, you don't have to." But she is already at the sink. In the front hallway, Ethan grabbed Cameron's sleeve. "You're chasing a ghost, son." Cameron pulled free. "What ghost?" "The man whose name I've been dragging around for 30 years? When Ethan walked back into the kitchen, he stopped. Tova stood at the sink, holding his Grateful Dead t-shirt, the fabric dark with grease. "Tova." His voice comes out strange. "This rag was in the drawer with the dish towels. I thought, that was my shirt." She looks down. The dancing bears, the faded tour dates, the stains that will never come out. She leaves before Ethan can tell her about Daphne Cassmore. Tova does not sleep. At dawn, she calls Janice. Together, they find a replacement online. The shirt is rare, collectible, $2,000. Tova pays it without hesitation. Then she drives to Tukwila, alone, on the freeway for the first time since Will's experimental treatment 2 years ago. The traffic is heavy. She thinks about the night Erik died, the lane she chose, how she might have taken a different route if she had known. She thinks about the key the octopus returned. Her phone rings. Charter Village, confirming the final deposit. Move in next month. The spot is hers. I authorize the deposit, Tova says. Yes, that's correct. Thank you. When she hands Ethan the replacement shirt, he does not speak for a long moment. He holds it in both hands, the dancing bears restored, and looks at her. You're quite a woman. It was my fault. I should have asked. I'd give away 100 such shirts to redo that supper. I was going to tell you something important about Cameron's mother. I know about Cameron's mother, Tova says. Her name is Daphne Cassmore. I found her in the yearbook. She was the girl my son loved. Ethan stares. And I found Cameron's driver's license under the sea lion statue in the aquarium lobby. I don't know how it got there, but I know what it means. The following week, Tova signs the closing papers on her house. The dollar horses go into a box marked Keep. She is moving to Charter Village. But there is something she has not made peace with Cameron's birth date, his search for a father. The way his eye roll is exactly what teenage Erik used to do when annoyed with her. An impossible thought, a thought she cannot dismiss. The meeting that wasn't. Cameron's lie has worked. He left voicemails pretending to be a developer, and the office called him back. Not to the San Juan Villa, to a basement bar in Seattle. A speakeasy called Mudmino, hidden behind an unmarked door. Simon Brinks waits at a back table. He is older than Cameron expected, with graying hair and tired eyes. Expensive watch, rumpled shirt. He looks like a man who has been carrying something heavy a long time. Cameron, Brinks says. Before Cameron can introduce himself, you have your mother's eyes. Cameron does not sit. You know why I'm here. I know what you think you're here for. The developer sips his drink. Daphne was my best friend. We grew up together in Soho Bay. We planned this bar together. She named it Mudmino. She always had a thing for fish. You're my father. No. The word comes without hesitation. That was never how it was with me and Daphne. We were friends. That's all. Cameron's hand closes around the ring. Then why do I have your class ring? EELS, class of 1989. The developer leans forward and holds out his own hand. On his finger is a ring, also gold, also a class ring. But the engraving is different. Sob, Simon Orville Brinks. My ring says Sob. The one you're holding, he gestures. That's not mine. Cameron pulls the ring from his pocket, lays it on the table. 2 rings, 2 sets of initials. The ring he crossed 2 states to follow is not Simon Brinks' ring. It never was. Whose is it? Cameron's voice comes out smaller than he means. The developer studies him. You really don't know, do you? Your mother loved you. Whatever else she did, she loved you more than anything. She talked about you all the time, before she disappeared, before she abandoned me. She was sick, Cameron, using. She couldn't take care of you the way she wanted to. Leaving you with your aunt was the best thing she could do. She never called, not even a birthday card. The developer looks at his drink. I gave her some cash once, a few years later. She was still using. But she loved you. That's all I can tell you. Cameron stands. He grabs the ring off the table, shoves it back in his pocket. He doesn't know why. It is worthless now. Belongs to a stranger. This bar, the developer calls after him. It was her dream. You're welcome here any time. Cameron walks out into Seattle rain. He has nowhere to go and no father to find. The 1,000 miles, the box, the photo, the ring, all of it has led to a basement bar and a man who was only his mother's friend. He sits in his camper. He does not start the engine. What the Octopus retrieved. Back in Soho Bay, the aquarium is quiet. Cameron returns that night angry, grieving, throwing words like stones. He finds Tova near the wolf eel tank. It wasn't him, Tova. 2 rings on the table. His says SOB, mine says EELS. Mine belongs to nobody. Tova reached for his arm. Cameron. But he was already pulling away. She was 16, Tova. My mother, she was 16 when she had me, and she never told anyone who the father was, not even the man she planned a bar with. The whole mission was pointless. I'm going back to California. He drops the ring into the wolf eel tank. Gold, heavy, sinking through the dark water. Then he walks out, and his camper rattles away into the night. Tova clings. The routine is a comfort, the mop, the bucket, the corners. At the end of her shift, Terry stops her in the hallway. He looks tired. We've gotten a new octopus, he says. A rescue from Alaska. Young, salmon pink. She'll go into the main tank soon. Tova's hand's still on the mop handle. What about Marcellus? Terry's face is answer enough. He's old. For a giant Pacific octopus, 4 years is the upper limit. He's already past that. I don't know how much longer he has. Weeks. Days. That night, Tova visits the octopus. He is pale, barely moving. His color faded to a grayish white. She presses her hand to the glass. After a long moment, one arm rises, slow and trembling, and presses against the other side. I know, she whispers. I know you're tired. His dark, ancient eye follows her until she leaves. The octopus waits until the building is empty. He is so tired. His cells are barely holding together. But the ring is in the wolf eel tank, the wolf eels that took his arm once, the injury that led to his capture. Old enemies. He has never forgiven them. But tonight, he will enter their tank. The journey is brutal. Every inch of dry floor costs strength he no longer has. His skin cracks, his gills burn. He slips into the water, a relief and a terror. The wolf eels stir massive, serpentine, hungry. The octopus, with his dying body and 3 laboring hearts, does not fight them. He soothes them. A soft presence, a patience born of having nothing left to lose. He finds the ring at the base of a plant, half buried in sand. He wraps it in his strongest arm and drags it back toward his den. By the time he returns to his tank, he is barely alive. His gills barely move. His color is gone. But the ring is with him. The ring that belongs to the boy whose bones lie on the seafloor. The ring the young drifter threw away in despair. The ring that will prove what the octopus has known all along. In his tank, the octopus lay still. The ring was pressed against the wall of his den, cold and heavy. His breathing had slowed to something barely visible, a faint ripple near the siphon, once every 20 heartbeats. Above him, the water was black. Below him, the seafloor waited. He had carried the ring this far. Soon, he would carry it one last time. Episode 3. What the Octopus Knew. Cameron, the young man who came to Seoul Bay to find a father, has lost that hope and is now heading south. The camper rattles onto I-5, Seattle shrinking in the side mirror. Rain smears the glass, and the heater blows tepid. His knuckles are white on the wheel, but the rage has already drained. Now only a hollow quiet remains. He tried to squeeze something out of the meeting with Simon Brinks, a sense of direction, a story he could tell himself, but all he got was a drink he didn't order and a ring that belonged to a stranger. 2 rings on the basement table, one engraved SOB, the other EELS. Brinks had said, "That's never how it was with me and Daphne," and the floor had opened beneath Cameron's feet. He'd walked out into rain, the EELS ring heavy in his pocket, and now he's driving 14 hours back to Modesto with no father, no job, no girlfriend, and no reason to believe things will ever be different. His phone buzzes. A photo from Brad, a newborn wrapped in a pink blanket, eyes shut, mouth working. Brad's daughter. Cameron stares at the image while the camper idles at a stoplight. He types a congratulations, then opens his thread with Avery. "Can we talk?" No reply. He watches the screen for a full minute before tossing the phone onto the passenger seat. Stuck in traffic near Tacoma, his inner voice needles him. "You don't belong here. You didn't belong in Washington. You didn't belong in that band. And you sure as hell don't belong in a steady job cleaning fish tanks. You're a drifter with a broken down camper and a missing father. That's the whole resume." He pulls into a rest stop, pops the hood, tightens the shrieking belt with a wrench he stole from the aquarium maintenance closet. The engine quiets. He leans against the grill and looks at the sky. Gray, damp. He maps a 15-hour route to Modesto on his phone and saves it. Then he gets back in and drives south. An early arrival. Tova Sullivan hears the news on a Wednesday evening, her mop still in her hand. Terry Bailey, the aquarium manager, asks her to come into his office before her shift. He's drumming a pen against his desk. "We got a new octopus today. A rescue from Alaska. Young female salmon pink, about 20 pounds. She's in quarantine now." Tova's grip tightens on the mop handle. "What about Marcellus?" Terry stops drumming. "He's old, Tova. Giant Pacific octopuses live about 4 years. He's past that already. I've been watching him. He's not eating well. His color's gone. Could be weeks. Could be days." He hesitates. "You know, he's never been happy to be trapped in here." Tova nods, but her throat closes. She excuses herself and walks to the main exhibit hall. The tank glows in the dim room, and Marcellus is pale, a grayish-white lump in the corner, one arm draped over a rock. She presses her palm to the glass. After a long moment, an arm lifts slow, trembling, and presses against the other side, suckers fanning weakly. I know, she whispers. I know you're tired. His dark, ancient eye follows her as she turns away. She works her shift with a stillness that feels borrowed. At the end, when she wheels her cart to the supply closet, she notices the parking lot through the window. Cameron's camper is not there. He hasn't been at work either. She left a message, but he hadn't called back. The hours stretch, and the aquarium feels emptier than it ever has. The collapse. 2 nights later, Cameron does return. He comes through the back door after midnight, unshaven, reeking of cigarettes. Tova is scrubbing the break room sink. She straightens and wipes her hands. Where have you been? Seattle. He won't look at her. Met my father. Guess what? He's not my father. He paces, knocks a stack of takeout cartons off the counter. The ring I chased across 2 states? It's not his. His says SOB. This one, he pulls the gold ring from his pocket and holds it up. EELS. I don't even know what that stands for. Some dead guy, I guess. Cameron. I'm done. His voice cracks. Ethan's a nosy asshole. My band's finished. My luggage is in Italy. My girlfriend's ghosting me. My mother abandoned me. And my father doesn't fucking exist. He stops, breathing hard. I'm going back to California. Tonight. Tova steps toward him. You don't have to. But Cameron is already at the wolf eel tank. He holds the ring over the water. The whole thing was pointless. Every mile, he opens his fingers. The ring drops. It vanishes in a cloud of sand as one of the wolf eels uncoils to watch. Cameron stares at the ripples, then turns and walks out. The back door slams. Tova stands alone in the fishy silence. She thinks about following him, but her ankle still aches, and her words feel useless. So she retrieves her mop and cleans the floor where he stood, pushing the dirt into neat, damp lines. What the octopus retrieved. I have waited until the building is empty. I am so tired. My cells no longer obey me. My gills drag. But the ring the young drifter threw into the wolf eel's tank is a thing I know. I've held it before, in my den, among my collection. It belongs to the boy whose bones are on the seafloor, the one she mourns. The wolf eels and I are not friends. One of them took my arm when I was a juvenile. The injury weakened me, made me slow enough for a trawler to catch. That is how I ended up in this tank. I have never forgiven them, but tonight I will enter their territory. The journey across the lobby floor is brutal. Every inch costs me something I do not have. My skin cracks, my gills burn in the dry air. I slip into the tank, and they stir massive, serpentine, curious. I do not fight them. I speak to them softly, in the way of creatures who understand that predator and prey are not fixed roles. I am not here to threaten. I am here to take something that does not belong to them. The ring is half buried at the base of a plastic plant. I wrap it in my strongest arm and drag it toward the water's surface. The eels watch but do not follow. They know I am dying. They do not need me to tell them. Back in my den, I rest. My gills barely move. My color is gone. But the ring is with me. The ring that says EELS. The ring that belongs to the one who sank here long ago. I have one more journey to make. And then I will rest. The eel ring. Thursday afternoon is Tova's last day of work, though she has told almost no one. Janice Kim and Barb Vanderhoof appear on her porch with a cake shaped like a fish. Congratulations on your retirement, the icing reads. Tova laughs, but it's a thin sound. The house is half packed, boxes stacked against the walls. The percolator still plugged in on the counter. You'll talk them into hiring you to dust baseboards at Charter Village, Barb says, and Janice adds, she's not wrong. Before they leave, Barb surprises her by agreeing to adopt Cat. You'll need a Mauser once you're in that fancy retirement place, Tova says, and Barb shrugs. Cat'll do fine. I've got mice. It's a small, practical kindness, and Tova is grateful. That evening, she cleans the aquarium alone. She says goodbye to each animal, the seahorses, the jellies, the moray eel, and to the empty spot where Cameron used to lean his mop and complain. The building feels larger and quieter than it ever has. She works slowly, deliberately, letting the routine fill her. It will be the last time. At the end, she enters the lobby and stops. Marcellus is on the floor. He is pale, almost white, and completely dry. He has dragged himself nearly 10 feet from the tank. He is not moving. Tova drops to her knees beside him, her cast thumping against the tile, and touches his mantle. The skin is cool and papery. No, she whispers. No, no, no. She scrambles to the break room, fills a plastic bucket with tank water, and hurries back. She scoops him up, all 60 pounds of him, limp and heavy, and lowers him into the bucket. She splashes water over his gills. She waits. One arm twitches, then another. Color seeps back, faintly, a wash of pale rust. He is alive. Tova sinks back on her heels, her heart pounding, and that is when she sees it. On the floor where Marcellus lay, a small gold ring. She picks it up. It is heavy, chunky, wet. She wipes it on her sleeve and tilts it toward the light. Engraved around the stone are 4 letters, EELS, and below that, a name, Erik Ernest Lindgren Sullivan. The world narrows. The ring, the name, Erik's name, her son's name. The ring Cameron had chased. The ring Cameron had thrown into the wolf eel tank. Marcellus, dying, dried out, barely alive, had retrieved it, had brought it to her, had delivered the answer she did not know she was looking for. She looks at the octopus in the bucket. He is resting now, his gills rhythmically opening and closing. You knew, she says. All along, you knew. The very low tide. The pieces crashed together, one after the next, like waves. There was a girl, Erik and the girl, Daphne Casmore, Cameron's mother. Erik fathered a child who grew up unknown, 1,000 miles away, raised by an aunt in a trailer, with a mother who vanished. Cameron, with his heart-shaped dimple and his eye roll and his walk, that walk Marcellus had recognized, Cameron is her grandson. Tova crumples beside the bucket, propping her elbows on the rim, and the tears come hot and fast. They fall onto the water's surface, and Marcellus does not flinch. He lays the tip of one arm across the back of her hand. She cries for the boy who never came home, for the grandchild she never knew, for the decades of grief and the months of hope she refused to name. She cries until her throat is raw and her chest is empty, and then she wipes her face with the hem of her uniform and stands up. It is very late. The tide is low. Tova knows what she has to do. She lifts the bucket, Marcellus and all, and carries it outside, past the exhibit hall doors, across the boardwalk, down to the jetty where the rocks slope into Puget Sound. The moon is silver. The water is black glass. The tide has pulled back, exposing the dark, weedy stones. She sets the bucket at the edge. You gave me back my key, she says, her voice steadier than she expected. You gave me back his ring. You gave me a grandson. I can't keep you in that tank when all you want is to go home. She tips the bucket. Marcellus spills into the shallow water with barely a splash. He sinks for a moment, a formless shape, then his arms stir. He rights himself. He wraps one arm around her wrist, the same arm he'd offered in the break room weeks ago, and holds for one long, trembling moment. Then he releases. He glides away from the rocks, deeper, darker, until he's only a shadow, and then not even that. Tova stays on the jetty until the cold seeps through her uniform and her ankle aches, and then she walks back to her bench on the pier and sits with the ring in her palm. Every last thing. My sweet boy, she says to the water. The events of the last 2 hours hardly feel real. Marcellus is gone. Cameron, her grandson, is gone. As of tomorrow, the house will be sold. But she will not be moving to Charter Village. She knows that now. Whatever comes next, it will not be a tidy suite with a schedule and a dining hall. It will be something messier, something she cannot plan. Erik didn't know he'd fathered a child. He couldn't have ended his own life knowing that. So the suicide, the years of whispers, the police report, the cut anchor line, it was wrong. It was always wrong. Tova has known it in her bones, but now she has a different explanation building, one she can almost see. The pier creaks. A figure approaches young, athletic, pulling a jacket tight. Avery, the paddle shop owner who was once Cameron's almost girlfriend, hesitates. I'm sorry to bother you. I saw someone sitting out here alone, and oh, it's you. Tova, right? Tova nods. You're the girl, the one Cameron talked about. Avery's face flickers. He said that? He hasn't answered my texts. She sits down on the bench, leaving a careful space between them. I was worried. He got this idea about his father and went to Seattle, and then nothing. My son Marco, he's 15, told me Cameron called and said something about going back to California. but Marco lies. So I came looking. Cameron left tonight, Tova says. He was upset. Avery is quiet. Then she says, I hope he's okay. He deserves better than he thinks he does. Tova looks at her. You know him well? I know enough. Avery glances out at the water. A few years ago, I was walking the marina late, and I saw a woman standing on the railing of this pier. She was going to jump. Tova goes still. I talked to her. Mostly, I just listened. The woman on the railing kept talking about a horrible night, an accident, a boom. She wouldn't say what happened. She'd been carrying it for years. I stood with her for an hour, maybe more. Finally, she stepped down and walked away. I never got her name. Tova's hand closes around the ring. A boom, a boat boom. The kind that swings unexpectedly, knocks a man overboard, cracks a skull. An accident, not a suicide. Erik, on a boat at night, maybe with Daphne. A boom, a fall, a body that was never found. Thank you, Tova says, her voice barely audible. Thank you for telling me. Avery looks at her strangely, but doesn't ask. After a minute, she stands. If you see Cameron, tell him I'm not ghosting him. Tell him to call. She walks away, and Tova remains on the bench under the moon, the ring warm in her hand, the bay breathing below, and for the first time in 30 years, the weight shifts. What happened to Erik was not his fault. It was dark water, and a swinging boom, and a boy who wanted to impress a girl. An accident. Terrible, but not chosen. Not a rejection of the life she gave him. Not a silence meant to wound her. She sits until the sky begins to pale. 400 miles south, Cameron wakes in the cab of the camper at a truck stop outside Medford. He pulled over when his eyes wouldn't stay open. His neck is stiff, his mouth tastes like ash, and his phone sitting on the front bumper where he'd left it after checking messages has been run over. The screen is a spider web of cracks. It doesn't turn on. He doesn't even swear. He just picks it up, stares at it, and drops it into a trash can. Beside the can, he empties his pockets. Lighter. A mostly full pack of cigarettes. He throws those away too. He gets back in the camper and sits. The engine ticks. The sun comes up over the Siskiyous. He turns the key, points the camper north. He doesn't know what he'll say when he gets there. He just knows he's done driving away. The Dollar Horse. On her last morning in the house, Tova cancels Charter Village. She leaves a message before their office opens and does not wait for a callback. Then she cleans baseboards, windowsills, the inside of the refrigerator, because cleaning is what she does when she doesn't know what else to do. The doorbell rings at 10:30. Cameron is standing on the porch. He looks like he's been driving all night. His clothes are wrinkled, his hair is a wreck, and there is a small, hopeful terror in his eyes. I'm sorry, he says. For quitting, for the ring, for everything. Tova steps aside. Come in. He follows her into the kitchen, where the percolator is still bubbling. She pours him a cup of coffee without asking. He holds it with both hands. There's something I need to tell you, she says. The ring you threw into the wolf eel tank. Marcellus retrieved it. He brought it to me. Cameron's brow furrows. It was my son's. Erik's. The engraving says EELS. Erik Ernest Lindgren Sullivan. She lets the name settle. Erik was 18. He was going to bring a girl to a family cabin the night he died. The girl was Daphne Casmore. Your mother. Cameron sets the cup down. His mouth opens, closes. He looks like someone who has been told the earth is round for the first time. So Erik was my father. Yes, Tova says. And I am your grandmother. The word hangs in the air between them, strange and solid. Cameron stares at her face, her hands, the way she stands, and then he starts laughing. It's not mocking. It's something raw and disbelieving and cracked. I've never had a grandmother, he says. I mean, I've never had a father or a grandmother or Jesus. He scrubs his face. I drove 1,000 miles to find my father, and I found you. You did, Tova says. She pulls a ring from her pocket and places it in his palm. This belonged to him. You should have it. Cameron doesn't speak. He turns the ring over, reads the engraving with his thumb. Then he slides it onto his finger. It fits. Later, they are standing in Erik's old bedroom. Most of the furniture is gone, but the floor is still there, the same floor Erik walked on as a boy. Cameron stands in the center, looking around, and Tova says, He's Dollar Horse, the one from Sweden. He broke it when he was 10 and tried to hide it. I found the pieces in a drawer. She crosses to the corner of the room, kneels, and works a loose floorboard with her fingernails. Underneath is a small compartment. Inside is a painted wooden horse, carefully glued back together, its red and blue scrollwork intact. Erik's repair. A secret kept for 20 years. Cameron crouches beside her. He fixed it. He did. Tova's eyes sting, but she doesn't look away. He wanted to make things right, even if he didn't know how to tell me. Cameron reaches out and touches the horse. I have one of these too, from my mother. Aunt Jeannie kept it. His voice is quiet. Maybe that's why. Tova sets the horse on the windowsill where the light catches it. Somewhere beneath the water, the tide is coming in. Day 1 of my freedom. I sink like a cold bundle of flesh. My arms no longer function. I am a chunk of jetsam on a comatose journey toward the seafloor. Then, with a twitch, my limbs awaken, and I am alive again. I do not say this to give false hope. My death is imminent. But I am not dead yet. I have time enough to bask in the vastness of the sea. A day or two, perhaps, to revel in darkness. Dark, like the bottom of the seafloor. Darkness suits me. After my release, I swam away from the rocks with haste. Soon, there was a drop-off. Down, 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 into the depths where no light reaches. Where once, as a juvenile, I found a key. Where I return now to lie with the long disintegrated bones of a beloved son. I will be honest. This is not how I expected our time together to end. For nearly 4 years, I was held captive, and not a day passed when I did not plan an escape, some small, some grand, most thwarted by doors and lids and the limitations of my own body. I studied humans. I learned their words. I memorized their fingerprints and their keys. And in the end, the one who mattered most turned out to be remarkably bright. She saw me. She spoke to me. She trusted me, and I trusted her. Before I left the tank, I visited the new one, the young female, salmon pink, terrified, missing 2 arms. She is badly injured, but she is in the tank now, and the cleaner will care for her. I made her a promise. You are in good hands. I hope she believed me. Now I sink into the soft, cold silt where the key once lay, where the boy's sneaker, sole, and buttons, and the fragments of his life have long since been reclaimed by the sea. This is the place I was taken from. This is the place I am returning to. I never thought I would see it again. But here I am, free. Dying, but free. And that is more than I ever expected. Darkness suits me. I am home. After all, 1 month later, the renovations on Tova's new waterfront condo are complete. A moving truck with Texas plates has come and gone. The percolator sits on a new counter, and Kat, who turned out to be perfectly happy at Barb's visits on weekends when Barb goes to her daughter's, Tova is preparing for battle. You're toast, she calls, unfolding the Scrabble board on the dining table. Please. Cameron emerges from the kitchen with a tray of sliced cheddar and crackers. I'm about to own you. It is Thanksgiving. Ethan arrives at noon with a bottle of wine and a stack of vinyl records. He spins Grateful Dead while Tova bastes the turkey and Cameron mashes the potatoes. Avery was supposed to come. She promised to stop by after the paddle shop closed, but the holiday rental rush kept her late. She will be there later with her son Marco, and Cameron has bought a Nerf football as an early Christmas gift for the boy. Cameron wears the EELS ring on his right hand. He works construction now. Terry would have kept him at the aquarium, but the hours and pay were better, with a framing crew, and he's enrolled in community college for the spring. He parks the camper in Tova's driveway, and she doesn't complain about the oil spots. After dinner, they walk along the waterfront. The wind is brisk, the whitecaps sharp on the gray sound. They stop in front of the aquarium, where a new bronze statue stands beside the entrance, a giant Pacific octopus, arms curling upward, cast in metal so dark it almost swallows the light. Tova funded most of it with a donation she never mentioned to anyone except the accountant. She touches the bronze arm. I miss you, she whispers, not caring if Ethan or Cameron hear her. Both of you. The bay does not answer. But the water moves, and the wind moves, and the statue does not move, and that is enough. Later, back at the condo, Cameron rattles a Scrabble bag. One more game. You've already lost twice. 3rd time's the charm. Tova sits across from him. Ethan puts on another record, something slow, something Scottish, and stretches out on the couch with Kat, who has deigned to visit for turkey scraps. Cameron draws his tiles. I'm winning this one. We'll see. The board fills with words. Outside, the bay turns dark, and somewhere in the deep, an octopus who loved darkness rests where a boy's bones once lay. Up in the condo, the percolator gleams, the Dala horse stands on the mantel, and Tova Sullivan, cleaner, widow, grandmother, looks across the table at her grandson and sees, for the first time in 30 years, a future that does not require her to be strong alone. She turns back to the Scrabble board. Her grandson is winning. Tova Sullivan ends this story on a waterfront balcony, alone, speaking two names into the dark water. Her son Erik, whose bones rest on the seafloor, where an octopus once found a key, and Marcellus, the creature who returned that key to her, who spent his final days dragging a gold ring across a lobby floor so she could find her grandson. Both of you. Not one loss resolved, but two losses held at once. Shelby Van Pelt built Tova from the shape of her own late Swedish grandmother, a widow who never remarried, never complained, never named the loss she was managing. She kept a clean house. She showed up with casseroles. She refused, absolutely, to be seen as vulnerable. Van Pelt, as a child, simply accepted the surface. Years later, as an adult writer, she looked back and realized she had been in the room with enormous private grief and had not known how to see it. The novel is that act of retrospective attention. Tova's routines, the cleaning, the mop, the lies to the nitwits about sucker marks, rather than explaining anything true, are observed behaviors, not invented ones. Van Pelt borrowed the texture of her grandmother's grief and gave it to a character whose loss was different in detail, but identical in how it was carried, a woman who kept moving because stopping would mean feeling it. Marcellus, meanwhile, is a narrative mechanism that forces attention. An alien intelligence with 500 million neurons. He can read. He remembers keys. He recognizes genetic traits in a stranger's gait. And he cannot speak a single word of human language. He can only watch. He can only leave objects where someone might find them. In the economy of this novel, he is the argument for paying closer attention to the people who do not announce their pain. The novel does not ask Tova to become someone else. It does not heal her. It does not give her back her son or her octopus. What it gives her is the experience of being truly seen by someone who had nothing to gain from the seeing. Marcellus, with 160 days left, noticed. Cameron notices now. Ethan has been trying to notice for 2 years. This is not a story about grief being overcome. It is a story about grief being witnessed. The question it leaves is a practical one. Who in your life is carrying something you have never bothered to look at